Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and today let's talk torches. Ultimately, this is where I've wound up. This is the Snap On Torch300, both its name and its product number. That's where I'm headed because this is what I found is the best. Absolutely love this thing. I'll get to it. Obviously, Bernz-o-Matic has been a leader in the torch field, and most people probably have a really good idea of the products that Bernz-o-Matic makes. They make quite a few of them, and there's no reason, not to go with a lot of Bernz-o-Matic products, but in certain form factors, I think they're awful. And this was kind of the same form factor, same position in the line as my Snap-on, and this, to me, is a ridiculous design. I don't know what was going on because I've got some of the others. This one, if you're ever, for just general household chores, camping, etc., this thing just kicks out a beautiful flame. And it's not a lighter. It doesn't kick out a lighter flame like this. It kicks out a torch flame. And that torch flame, if I can light this guy up, it is totally different. So much faster at lighting, say campfires, or melting plastics, or softening plastics for molding, wire wraps, things like that. But we use them all over the place when we're out and about in the backcountry. They just in the RV, they just come in so handy, and they're so much faster, and they're refillable. I'll get into how to refill this stuff in a bit. But basically that alone is worth the price of admission. By the way, $5 at Home Depot. I mean, Jiminy, how do you go wrong with that? But this thing, to me, was a disaster. First of all, it's completely non-intuitive how it operates. You know how to turn it on? You'd think you'd push the button, but you can't. What does this stuff do? It's kind of spread around. Well, to fire it up, you got to pull this down, this little lever here, and see, I just clicked it into position. That allows this now to be depressed. If it doesn't fire up, you have to pull this down again, which means you need some way of grabbing that, which is impossible in gloves. Generally a fingernail. You can try to hold it until you get the thing going, and then I've got the torch burning now. How do you lock it? Well, you've got to do this, push that in, get it going, and then you can push this button in. And then how do you unlock it? Well, you got to push that to release it, and then you can, and then it'll stop when you let that up. Anyway, it's got basically a set of instructions you have to remember, unless you want to, read all of this on how this thing works. Compare that to the Snap-on, which has a button, a big lock button back here. What do? You push the lock button in, you fire it up. If you take your finger off the lock button, then you've locked it. There you go. It stays on. How do you unlock it? Well, push the lock button, and then it dies out. Easy to control right here with this twist wheel. You can do it one finger or two. You can adjust it easily on the fly. So if I fire it up and then I can move it, might be running out of fuel. Well, that's where we're headed, because I'll show you how to fill these really inexpensively. But anyway, some smaller Bernz-o-Matic. This is okay. It's a little clunky, not very expensive. This is their butane powered soldering iron. So basically it fires up a flame inside here that heats this. So gives you some remote capacity. You don't have to have it plugged in. Again, you can refill it. Kind of a simple design, not super expensive, but it is just plastic. I tell you, a lot of this now has been superseded because I got a Milwaukee battery-powered soldering iron, and this thing, honestly, this really does well. It's right now it's heating up. if you haven't used a battery-powered soldering iron, then you're in for a treat. It is a little bit heavier, obviously, than something like this, but it's super nice. That just means it's a little bit hot, so just give it a second. So it's got some built-in temperature regulation features that keep it a little bit safer. Definitely something to look at. This is about, I remember what this was, $80 or something like that, versus I think these were around 20 or less. Anyway, something to look into. I'll do a review on this guy later. These are all butane tools. Butane is basically a 4-carbon chain. We've got methane, which you run in your furnace, basically hot water heater. Ethane, propane, which is grill gas, basically, and then you've got butane. So it's 4. So ethane, methane, propane, butane. All it keeps going on up to octane, which you're familiar with. But anyway, the butane is a really efficient fuel. It's not terribly dangerous, but it burns hot, burns blue. But somehow you have to get a hold of it in a canister to transfer it into these other things. So a lot of people buy just the standard blue canister, and then this thing is great. And this is just instant torch. Love this thing, this Bernz-o-Matic. But when I want to use something a little bit smaller, more precise, or to carry it with me on trips, I grab this guy. But how do you fill it? Well, what I've found, obviously you can buy things that look like aerosol cans, or like just regular, this kind of can with a nozzle on it that allows you to squirt it into the port on these devices. What I do a lot of outdoor stuff, outdoor camping, is I get these big cylinders, and you can buy them with different mixes. These are for camp stoves, like this one's a JetBoil, but you can get MSR, lots of different brands. But anyway, they have a universal top on these. And what I've got is, this is made by Optimus, and you can get these. I got this one, I think, on Amazon. And what this is a adapter that screws on here. So you can hear a little bit of gas escape. There it is. And then I can literally take this and upside down put it right into that hole on the base of the tool and push it in until I see the fuel leak out right there. There you go. A little bit of fuel. It'll evaporate pretty quick. And I've completely filled it. This has a window on it, so if I backlight it, it's a little hard to see, but basically it does give me some indication of how much is in there. Obviously it's full now. That can come in handy because you'll see a little bubble floating around. Tells you how much is actually in there. And I can fill this one while I'm at it. While I've got this stuff out, basically line it up and push. Whoops, got to get it just lined up right. There we go. And got it. It's all full. This one also has an indicator. Light that up. See that? There it is. I don't know if you can see, full to the brim. Can fill this one the same way, and fill this one the same way. And these are a lot less expensive than the bigger tanks. Plus, I've got plenty of them. And what I mean less expensive, for the quality of fuel that's in these. Something to think about. This one's 16 ounces of fuel, basically a pound of isobutane propane mix. There's not a lot of propane in here. They do that for efficiency, and they make different weather mixes with the isobutane and propane mix. For a lot of things now, I've also transitioned to this. I would use this like to thaw pipes. Sometimes if I'm working on trailers and RVs and you know, small cabins in the woods around here, which I do, this can come in really handy, but it's also a fire hazard. So I've transitioned to this. I'll do a write-up on. This particular thing is Milwaukee's battery-powered heat gun. So it does detether me from an outlet. Obviously nowhere near the strength of a AC plugged-in heat gun, but it's really opened up the capacity for adding heat. And going into the winter, I get to test a lot of these, so sometimes I'll just have these around and look for a way to, you know, if a car, like it rains and freezes, I can get into a car lock by just thawing it out with something like this, rather than squirting de-icer in it or using a torch. Very handy for that. A few other things that you encounter in cold weather. But anyway, so is it worth it? The money, once, you know, if you use something like this a lot, yes. But it is, it's over 2 times, yeah, it's over 2 times as expensive as this little Bernz-o-Matic one. If you might use something like that, you know, it's not too bad. It's just kind of a wonky interface that you have to memorize. Fits funny in your hand, this 90-degree angle. It does have a decent stand, probably a little bit safer than this guy here. But when it comes to performance, that Snap On, much better. And then for just ultimate instant torching, definitely one of these. Your whole feature set here is you can lock it so the button can't be pushed. Good thing to have if you're traveling with this, putting it in your toolbox or whatever. That allows it to be depressed. Once it's on, you can depress this button and this will actually lock it on, so you can work with both hands around it. That's a key feature with these things. I don't think this would be near as good if you had to leave your finger on it in order to keep it going, because it's nice to set it down and then you can do work, some finer work. This thing, however, for some ridiculous reason, has no way to lock it on. That simply releases it. So a lot of people have a rubber band or something around here that if they need to leave it on, they just move it up onto the trigger housing. You can see that there. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the torches. They make Snap-on does make a little bit bigger one of these, you know, a little bit more heat, a little bit larger capacity, but this thing is just super handy. I even have a holster for it, an old pistol holster that I'll drop it into, so I can throw it in my toolbox without worrying about damaging any of this when I'm on the road. So that's my thoughts. Hope you find it helpful. Doc out.